I've hurt people, Tina. Done things I can never take back. I never thought I would say this out loud. I've carried this for so long. I'm afraid of how you'll look at me after this.
I know. And I'm choosing you anyway.
Lee Sunmi arrived at the restaurant like a force of nature. Early 40s, short hair, wearing jeans and a leather jacket, she moved with the confidence of someone who'd spent 20 years asking powerful people uncomfortable questions and living to write about it. She shook Tina's hand firmly, ordered soju and grilled mackerel without looking at the menu, and got straight to business. Ji-hoon says you want to tell your story before someone else tells it for you, she said, pulling out a recording device but not turning it on yet. Smart move. Chairman Kang's people are already shopping a narrative to tabloids. Poor little rich boy provoked by scheming foreigner. You'd be surprised how many outlets would run with that if it came from the right source with the right money attached. How do you know what Chairman Kang's doing? Tina asked. Sunmi smiled. Because 3 different editors called me this week asking if I wanted an exclusive about the real story behind the Diamond Sky incident. When the same story gets shopped to multiple outlets simultaneously, you know someone's coordinating. And when it's about a Kang family scandal, there's only one person with enough control to manage that kind of campaign. She turned to Ji-hoon. You're putting yourself in his crosshairs with this. You know that, right? The business community will see this as you challenging one of the old guard families. There will be consequences. Let there be consequences, Ji-hoon said calmly. I'm tired of men like Chairman Kang thinking they can destroy anyone who gets in their way. Someone needs to push back. Sunmi studied him for a long moment. You've changed. The Ji-hoon I knew 5 years ago would have handled this quietly, made the problem disappear. This is different. I'm trying to be different, Ji-hoon said simply, and his eyes flickered to Tina for just a moment. Sunmi caught it. Caught everything, Tina realized. That's what made her good at her job. All right, Sunmi said, turning back to Tina. Before we start officially, let me tell you how this works. I'm going to ask you hard questions. Questions you won't like. Questions that might make you angry or upset. I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm doing it because if I don't ask them, someone else will. And I'd rather you prepare your answers with me than get ambushed later. Understand? Tina nodded. I can handle hard questions. We'll see. Sunmi clicked the recording device on. Start from the beginning. Why did you come to Korea? For the next 2 hours, Tina told her story. Not the sanitized version, the real one. Her father's death and the medical debt. Dropping out of university, working 3 jobs in Atlanta and still not making enough. Her mother's cancer diagnosis and the desperate calculation that led her to Seoul. The teaching job that never existed. The 3 years of survival in the margins, sending money home while living in spaces barely fit for habitation. Sunmi listened without interrupting, only asking clarifying questions. When Tina got to the Diamond Sky incident, Sunmi made her walk through every detail. What she was wearing, how many hours she'd already worked that day, the exact sequence of events, how Damien's hand had felt gripping her dress, the sound of fabric tearing, the camera flashes. How did it feel? Sunmi asked. In that moment when your dress was ripped and everyone was watching. Tina took a breath. Like every fear I'd had about being in this country was confirmed. That I was disposable. That my body, my dignity, my humanity were all just collateral damage to people who had power. But also, under the fear, there was rage. Because I'd done nothing wrong. I'd spilled champagne, yes, but it was an accident. I didn't deserve what happened. And I refused to let them see me broken. The video shows you were incredibly composed, dignified. Was that calculated? No. It was survival. I grew up in neighborhoods where showing weakness meant becoming a target. I learned early that sometimes dignity is the only power you have. So I used it. Sunmi nodded, making notes. Let's talk about Ji-hoon. How did he become involved? This was the delicate part. They'd discussed it beforehand, decided how much to reveal. The full truth about Atlanta, about the life debt, about Ji-hoon's world that would stay private. But the basic facts, those could be public. We met years ago, briefly, in America, Tina said carefully. I helped him when he was in a difficult situation. He remembered, and when he saw what happened to me, he reached out through his lawyer to offer assistance. A job, legal representation, housing while I got back on my feet. That's an unusually generous response to a brief encounter years ago. Ji-hoon takes loyalty seriously. I helped him once. He wanted to return the favor. I was in desperate circumstances after losing my job and housing due to the incident. I accepted his help. Some people will say you're using him, that this is all calculated to extract money from wealthy men. Tina met Sunmi's eyes directly. Let them say it. I know my truth. I work at his gallery. I have a contract, a salary, responsibilities. I'm not his mistress or his charity case. I'm an employee who's grateful for a second chance. Anyone who wants to make that into something ugly says more about themselves than about me. Sunmi smiled slightly. Good answer. What about Damien Kang? He's in rehab now, issued a public apology. Do you accept it? I don't know yet, Tina said honestly. Apologies are easy. Change is hard. If he actually does the work, actually becomes someone who wouldn't do that again, then maybe. But that's not for me to monitor or validate. He needs to become better for himself, not for my forgiveness. Would you accept financial compensation from him? I don't want his money. I want accountability. I want the systems that allowed him to hurt me without consequences to change. I want other women in my position to know they don't have to accept abuse silently because they need their jobs, their visas, their survival. That matters more than any settlement. They talked for another hour about immigration policy, about the treatment of foreign workers in Korea, about the intersection of race, class, and power. Sunmi pushed, challenged, made Tina articulate positions she hadn't fully formed yet. Finally, Sunmi clicked off the recorder. That's good. Really good. You're a natural at this. You sure you didn't finish that journalism degree? I was 3 months away when I had to drop out, Tina said. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd finished. You'd probably be sitting where I am. You have the instinct for it. The way you frame stories, find the larger meaning. That's not something you can teach. Sunmi glanced at Ji-hoon. You said she was smart. You undersold it. Ji-hoon smiled. I'm learning not to underestimate her. Sunmi packed up her equipment. I'll have a draft to you both by Wednesday. It'll run in Sunday's edition, front page of the features section. I'm also going to do a companion piece on foreign worker rights in Korea, using your story as a lens. Expect pushback. The Kang family won't take this quietly. Damien's in rehab, but his father will come after you harder. Let him try, Tina said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. After Sunmi left, Ji-hoon walked Tina back toward the gallery. The afternoon was cool, autumn deepening into the promise of winter. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. You were impressive in there, Ji-hoon said finally. The way you articulated everything. Made it about more than just yourself. That takes vision. I learned from watching my mother. She always said our individual struggles mean nothing if we don't use them to help others avoid the same pain. Make meaning from suffering, she called it. She sounds like a remarkable woman. She is. I need to call her. Tonight. Tell her about the article before it runs. She deserves to hear it from me. They reached the gallery. Sujin was inside, preparing for an evening private viewing. Through the window, Tina could see collectors beginning to arrive, the gallery transforming into a social space. You should go in, Ji-hoon said. These events are part of the job. Good for you to start meeting the clientele. Will you be there? Later, I have some business to handle first. His expression shifted slightly, became more guarded. Chairman Kang needs to understand that coming after you has consequences. I'm going to make that clear. Ji-hoon, don't do anything that... I'm not going to hurt anyone, he interrupted gently. I promised you I wouldn't act without your consent. But there are other ways to make a point. Legal ways. Economic ways. He wants to play games with immigration investigations and media attacks. I can play games too. Mine are just more effective. He left before she could respond. Tina watched him go. This man who'd become so central to her life so quickly, and felt the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just about her story anymore. It was about power, about challenging systems, about men who'd never been told no, learning that their reach had limits. She took a breath and went inside. Time to learn how to be an assistant curator. The private viewing was intimate. Maybe 20 collectors moving through the gallery sipping wine, discussing a new exhibition of Korean abstract expressionism. Soo-jin introduced Tina around, and if anyone recognized her from the viral video, they were too polite to mention it. A woman in her 60s, elegant and sharp-eyed, engaged Tina in conversation about one of the paintings. "What do you see when you look at this?" she asked. Tina studied the canvas. Wild strokes of color, seeming chaos that somehow resolved into meaning if you stepped back far enough. "I see someone trying to make sense of disorder, finding pattern in chaos. Or maybe creating their own pattern when the world doesn't make sense." The woman smiled. "You have good instincts. I'm Park Mi-sun. I've been collecting contemporary Korean art for 30 years. Soo-jin tells me you're new to the field." "Very new. I'm learning as I go." "The best way. All the formal education in the world can't teach you to see. That's innate. You have it, or you don't. You seem to have it." She pulled out a business card. "If you ever want to talk about art or anything else, call me. I like helping young women find their footing in difficult worlds." It was only later, researching the name, that Tina realized Park Mi-sun was one of the wealthiest women in Korea, a patron of the arts who'd built her fortune in pharmaceuticals and spent the last decades giving most of it away to causes she believed in. That she'd been kind to Tina, seen something worth encouraging, felt like a small miracle. The evening ended well. Soo-jin seemed pleased with how Tina had handled herself. "You're a natural at this," she said. "The collectors liked you. That's half the battle in this business." Tina went home to find Dalisay and Yuki cooking dinner, the apartment filled with the smell of garlic and ginger and home. They ate together, talked about their days, normal things that felt precious, because for so long, normal had been impossible. After dinner, Tina called her mother, told her about the interview, the article that would run Sunday. Her mother listened, asked questions, then went quiet for a long moment. "Baby, are you sure about this? Going public? You know there'll be people who tear you apart." "I know, Mama, but if I don't tell my story, someone else will, and their version won't be true. At least this way, the truth is out there. Your grandmother would be proud. She always said Johnson women don't hide. We stand up, speak up, even when it's hard." Her mother's voice got thick. "I'm proud of you too. Scared for you, but proud." They talked for an hour about everything and nothing. When they hung up, Tina felt steadier, clearer. She was going to war with one of Korea's most powerful families. It should have terrified her. Maybe it did, but under the fear was something else. Purpose. The feeling that for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting back. Meanwhile, across the city, Ji-hoon sat in a nondescript office building in Gangnam, surrounded by lawyers and accountants and people who understood how power really worked in Seoul. "Chairman Kang's immigration complaints about Tina Johnson," he said, sliding a folder across the table. I want them to disappear completely. No record they were ever filed. That's going to require some expensive favors, one of the lawyers said. I don't care about the cost. Make it happen. Also, I want a full audit of every business dealing between Kang Industries and any government contract for the last 10 years. Every permit, every approval, every sweetheart deal. I want to know where the bodies are buried. Sir, that's going to take months and significant resources. You have a week, and I want it airtight. When I move against Chairman Kang, I want it to be devastating and legal. No room for him to claim persecution. Just facts, evidence, consequences. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Ji-hoon was declaring war on one of the old guard families, the kind of war that reshaped Seoul's power structure. Why now? His cousin Hana asked after the others left. You've been patient with the Kang family for years, played the long game. Why throw that away over one woman? Ji-hoon looked at her. Because I'm tired of being patient with men who think power means they can hurt anyone weaker. Because for once, I want to use everything I've built for something that actually matters. And because she saved my life 7 years ago, and I'll be damned if I let Chairman Kang destroy her for the crime of existing. You care about her. I do. More than professionally. More than just debt repayment. Ji-hoon didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, looked out at Seoul's lights. I don't know what I feel yet, but I know she makes me want to be better than what I am, makes me believe I can build something clean from dirty foundations. That's rare, that's worth protecting. And if she doesn't feel the same way, if she wants nothing to do with you once the danger passes, then I'll let her go. She deserves freedom, not obligation. He turned back. But until then, I'll make sure she's safe. That's non-negotiable. Hana nodded. All right, I'll coordinate with the legal team. But Ji-hoon, be careful. Chairman Kang didn't build his empire by playing fair. When he realizes you're coming for him, he'll escalate, and he won't care about collateral damage. Neither will I, Ji-hoon said quietly. Not this time. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Sunmi sent her draft article Wednesday morning. It was powerful, unflinching, centering Tina's voice while contextualizing her story in Korea's broader issues with immigrant worker rights and power imbalances. Tina read it 3 times, made minor edits, approved it. It would run Sunday. Thursday, Chairman Kang made his first real move. A tabloid ran a story questioning Tina's immigration status, suggesting she'd been working illegally, implying her entire situation was a scam to extract money from wealthy men. The article was vicious, racist, designed to discredit her before Sunmi's piece could run. Ji-hoon's lawyers immediately filed defamation suits. But the damage was done. The story spread online, the comment sections filled with vitriol. Tina's hands shook as she read them. Yuki found her at the kitchen table, phone in hand, face pale. Stop reading, Yuki said firmly, taking the phone. Those people don't know you, they don't matter. They're saying I'm a prostitute, that I stage incidents to trap rich men, that I should be deported. Yuki, there are threats. People saying they know where I live. Which is why Ji-hoon has security on this building. Did you notice the new doorman? The cameras? He's been preparing for this. Tina hadn't noticed, but now that Yuki mentioned it, she realized there had been changes. Subtle, but present. Ji-hoon keeping his promise to protect her. Friday, things escalated further. Immigration officials showed up at the gallery. They had questions about Tina's work authorization, her visa status, her employment history. Soo-jin handled them calmly, presenting all the proper paperwork, everything perfectly legal and in order. But Tina saw how the officials looked at her. Like she was trouble. Like she was guilty of something, even if they couldn't prove it. Ji-hoon appeared within an hour, his lawyers in tow. By the time they left, the officials looked shaken. Whatever Ji-hoon had said, Whatever pressure he'd applied, it worked. They left without escalating. This is only going to get worse before it gets better, Ji-hoon told Tina that evening. They were alone in the gallery after closing, the space quiet and calm despite the chaos outside. Chairman Kang is just getting started. Sunday's article will make him even angrier. Are you sure you want to go through with this? I'm sure. I'm terrified, but I'm sure. Good. Fear is healthy. It keeps you alert. Just don't let it paralyze you. He hesitated, then continued. There's something else you should know. I've started moving against Chairman Kang economically, pulling investments, calling in favors, making it more expensive for him to come after you. It's going to get noticed. The business community will choose sides. Some will support you. Some will support the old guard. It's going to be messy. You're risking a lot for me. I'm risking a lot for what's right. There's a difference. Is there? Ji-hoon, if this costs you everything you've built, then I'll build something new. Something better. I've spent 20 years accumulating power. It's time to actually use it for something that matters. He met her eyes. You matter, Tina, not because you saved me once, because of who you are now. You fight back when it would be easier to surrender. You turn pain into purpose. You refuse to let the world make you small. That's rare. That deserves protection. The intensity in his voice, in his eyes, made Tina's breath catch. This was more than debt repayment, more than obligation. This was personal in ways that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. I should go, she said, because staying felt dangerous. Not physically, emotionally. Long day tomorrow. Tina. He stopped her at the door. Whatever happens, whatever gets said or thrown at you, remember you're not alone in this. You have people who care, who'll fight beside you. Don't try to carry it all yourself. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Then she left before she could do something stupid like cry or kiss him or acknowledge the feelings growing between them that neither of them had time for right now. Saturday passed in tense anticipation. Sunmi's article would hit the Korea Herald's website at midnight, the print edition Sunday morning. Tina barely slept. She kept checking the clock, watching time crawl toward the moment everything would change. At 11:59 p.m., her phone buzzed. A message from Sunmi. It's live. Good luck. You're going to need it. Tina clicked the link. There it was. Her face, her story, her words. Front page of the digital edition, with promises of the physical front page in the morning. The headline read, "The dress that tore open Korea's treatment of foreign workers. Tina Johnson speaks." She read it again. Her story in someone else's words, but somehow still authentically hers. Sunmi had captured everything. The fear, the dignity, the larger implications. It was powerful. It was true. And it was going to start a firestorm. Within an hour, the article had been shared 10,000 times. The comments were split, half defending her, half calling her a liar. News outlets were already reaching out for follow-up interviews. Social media was exploding. Her phone rang. Ji-hoon. I just read it. Tina, it's perfect. You're perfect. This is going to change things. Or destroy me. No, I won't let that happen. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. But you're ready. I know you are. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to feel as confident as he sounded. Instead, she just felt exposed. Raw. Like she'd stripped herself bare in front of the entire country and was now waiting to see if they'd clothe her or leave her to freeze. Across the city, Chairman Kang read the article and felt his blood pressure spike dangerously. This wasn't supposed to happen. The girl was supposed to be discredited by now, too scared to speak, broken by the weight of his power. Instead, she'd gone on the offensive, made herself sympathetic, used his son's addiction against him, aligned herself with Ji-hoon in a way that made attacking Ji-hoon's business interests. It was unacceptable. It required escalation. He made phone calls, mobilized resources, prepared for war in earnest. If Tina Johnson wanted to be a martyr, he'd be happy to oblige. And if Ji-hoon wanted to protect her, well, Chairman Kang had been destroying upstarts for 40 years. One more wouldn't make a difference. The pieces were in motion, the battle lines were drawn, and Sunday morning, when Seoul woke to Tina's face on newspaper stands across the city, the real war would begin. Sunday morning broke over Seoul with the kind of crystalline clarity that made the city look deceptively peaceful. Tina woke to her phone vibrating continuously, notifications piling up so fast her screen couldn't keep pace. The article had exploded overnight, shared across every social media platform, translated into multiple languages, picked up by international news outlets. She was trending, not just in Korea, but globally. Dallasay knocked softly on her door. "You need to see this." They gathered in the living room, Tina in the middle with Dallasay and Yuki flanking her like guards. Yuki turned on the television. Every news channel was covering the story. Some sympathetically, anchors discussing immigrant worker rights and the abuse of power. Others critically, questioning Tina's motives, suggesting this was all calculated for attention and money. But they were talking about it. All of them. The conversation had shifted from a drunk billionaire's mistake to systemic issues, to questions about who deserved dignity and protection in Korean society. "You did it," Yuki said quietly. "You changed the narrative." Tina's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Miss Johnson, this is Park Mi-sun. We met at the gallery viewing." "I remember. Hello. I just read the article. I want you to know I'm hosting a fundraiser next month for organizations supporting immigrant worker rights. I'd like you to speak if you're willing. Your voice matters. People need to hear directly from you." Tina's throat went tight. "I don't know if I'm the right person." "You're exactly the right person. Think about it. My assistant will send details." She paused. "Also, I'm having lunch with several board members of major Seoul corporations this week. Your story will be discussed. Not everyone in the business community supports the old ways of doing things. Some of us want change. You've given us an opening to push for it." After they hung up, more calls came. Legitimate news outlets requesting interviews, labor rights organizations wanting her involvement. Even a call from the Korean embassy in the United States, concerned about how this was affecting Korea's international image. But mixed in were threats, blocked numbers leaving voice messages calling her slurs, telling her to go back to her country, promising violence. Soo-jin called to warn that protesters were gathering outside the gallery, some supporting Tina, some calling for her deportation. "Stay home today," Soo-jin advised. "Let this settle. Ji-hoon has security handling the gallery situation." Ji-hoon. Tina hadn't heard from him since his call last night. She texted, "Are you okay?" His response came immediately. "I'm fine, managing fires. How are you holding up?" Overwhelmed? Scared? Angry? All of it. "That's normal. Don't read the comments. Don't engage with the hate. Focus on the positive responses. There are more of those than you think." "Where are you?" "Handling Chairman Kang. He made some moves this morning. I'm countering them. I'll explain later. Stay safe. Security is outside your building if you need anything." Tina looked out the window. Sure enough, there was a black SUV parked across the street. 2 men inside, watching. Ji-hoon's people. The thought should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like the only thing standing between her and chaos. The day crawled by. Tina tried to work, reviewing artist submissions from her laptop, but her concentration was shattered. Every notification made her jump. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. By evening, exhaustion had settled into her bones. Delise made soup. Yuki played guitar, trying to create some normalcy. They were about to sit down to eat when Tina's phone rang again. This time it was Hana, Ji-hoon's cousin. "Tina, I need you to listen carefully. Chairman Kang just filed a formal complaint with immigration alleging you violated the terms of your visa by working illegally before Ji-hoon hired you. He has witnesses, documentation, everything. It's all fabricated. But it's enough to trigger an investigation. Tina's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means they can detain you pending investigation. Possibly deport you while the case is being reviewed. Ji-hoon's lawyers are fighting it, but Chairman Kang has connections in immigration enforcement. This is serious. How long do I have? Maybe hours, maybe days, we don't know. Ji-hoon wants you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't easily access you while we sort this out legally. Where? His compound. It's private property, heavily secured. Immigration can't just walk in without a warrant, and getting a warrant will take time. Time we can use to dismantle Chairman Kang's case. Tina's hands were shaking. This is insane. He can't just fabricate evidence and have me arrested. He's a billionaire with 40 years of connections and no moral limits. Yes, he can. The question is whether we can stop him before it's too late. Hana's voice softened. I know this is frightening. I know it feels like losing control. But Ji-hoon won't let anything happen to you. Trust that if you can't trust anything else. Tell him I'm coming. 20 minutes later, the black SUV pulled up to the building. Tina threw some clothes in a bag, hugged Delise and Yuki. We'll be fine, Delise assured her. We're just roommates as far as anyone knows. You're the target, not us. Go. Stay safe. We'll hold down the fort here. The drive to Ji-hoon's compound took 40 minutes, winding out of the city into the mountains north of Seoul. The property was massive, traditional Korean architecture behind modern security gates. Guards checked the car thoroughly before allowing them through. Ji-hoon met her at the main house, and Tina was struck by how tired he looked. Still composed, still in control, but the strain was showing around his eyes. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I knew Chairman Kang would escalate, but I didn't think he'd move this fast, or this aggressively. What's happening? Really happening? He led her inside to a study lined with books and art. Chairman Kang is trying to make an example of you. Show that challenging the old power structure has consequences. The immigration complaint is just the opening move. My lawyers are already picking it apart, but he's got judges who owe him favors, officials who look the other way. We need time to outmaneuver him. And if you can't, I will. But worst case, we get you out of Korea temporarily. I have resources in other countries. You'd be safe, protected, able to continue your life somewhere else while we fight this legally. Run away, you mean? Strategic retreat, there's a difference. Tina sank into a chair. This is my fault. I should have just stayed quiet, accepted the firing, moved on. No, Ji-hoon's voice was sharp. This is Chairman Kang's fault for being a vindictive bastard who can't stand being challenged. You did nothing wrong. You told your truth. That's not a crime, no matter how he tries to make it one. He knelt in front of her chair, bringing himself to eye level. I know you're scared. I know this feels overwhelming. But I need you to trust me. Trust that I've been preparing for this. Trust that I have resources Chairman Kang doesn't even know exist. Trust that I will not let him destroy you. Why? Tina asked, the question that had been building for days finally breaking free. Why does this matter so much to you? And don't say it's just about the debt from 7 years ago. This is more. This is personal in ways that go beyond obligation. So tell me the truth, Ji-hoon. Why are you risking everything for me? He was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. When he spoke, his voice was raw with honesty. Because when I was bleeding in that alley 7 years ago, I'd given up. I was ready to die. My father had just been killed. I'd inherited a world I didn't want, enemies I couldn't fight, expectations I couldn't meet. I was 22 and already so tired of living. And then you appeared, this stranger who had every reason to walk away, but didn't. You saw me as human, worth saving, worth the risk and effort and care. He took a breath. I've spent 7 years trying to become someone worthy of that faith, building something cleaner from dirty foundations. trying to be more than what I inherited. And then I found you again, and you were still that same person, still fighting, still refusing to let the world make you less than you are. And I realized I'd been searching for you all these years, not just to repay a debt, but because you represented something I'd lost. Hope. The belief that people can choose to be kind, even when it costs them. That dignity matters more than survival. His hand moved like he wanted to touch her face, then fell back. So, yes, this is personal. Because you make me believe I can be better than what I am. Because protecting you feels like protecting the best parts of myself. Because I care about you, Tina, not as an obligation, as a person, as someone I want in my life, whatever form that takes. And I will not let Chairman Kang or anyone else destroy you for the crime of being brave enough to speak truth to power. The silence that followed was heavy with everything unspoken. Tina felt tears on her cheeks and didn't remember starting to cry. I care about you too, she whispered. It terrifies me. I don't know if I can trust it, if it's real or just trauma bonding or gratitude masquerading as something more, but I care, and I'm tired of pretending I don't. Ji-hoon's smile was soft, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen him. Then we'll figure it out, together, when this is over and you're safe and we have time to actually think clearly. But right now, we focus on keeping you out of Chairman Kang's reach. Everything else can wait. He stood, offered his hand to help her up. Let me show you to your room. You should rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. The guest room was beautiful, traditional Korean design with modern amenities. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over mountains turning purple in the dusk. It should have felt like a cage being hidden away in Ji-hoon's compound. Instead, it felt like the first safe breath she'd taken in days. She slept deeply, dreamlessly, for the first time since the article published. She woke to voices arguing in Korean somewhere in the house. Harsh, angry voices. She checked her phone. 6 a.m., multiple missed calls from unknown numbers, dozens of news alerts. She pulled on clothes and followed the voices to Ji-hoon's study. He was there with Hana and several other people Tina didn't recognize, all of them looking grim. Ji-hoon saw her in the doorway. You should be resting. I heard shouting. What's happened? Hana answered. Chairman Kang went nuclear. He's claiming Ji-hoon is harboring someone wanted for immigration violations. He's got a friendly judge who issued an order allowing immigration enforcement to search any property connected to Ji-hoon's businesses. They're coming here. When? Within the hour, probably. We have lawyers filing emergency motions, but it's going to be close. Ji-hoon's expression was stone. Then we moved to Plan B. Are you sure? Hana asked. Once you do this, there's no going back. Every relationship you've carefully built, every connection in the legitimate business world, it all gets complicated. I'm sure. He turned to Tina. How much do you trust me? Completely. Why? Because I'm about to call in every favor I've accumulated in 20 years. I'm going to wage war on Chairman Kang in ways that will make him wish he'd never heard your name. But it's going to get ugly. The methods I'll use, the pressure I'll apply, it's not all going to be clean. Are you okay with that? Tina thought about everything she'd lost. Her job, her housing, her privacy, nearly her freedom. Thought about Chairman Kang's willingness to fabricate evidence, to use his power to destroy someone who'd done nothing but survive. Thought about all the other people like her who'd been crushed by men like him and never had someone willing to fight back. I'm okay with it. Do whatever you need to do. Ji-hoon nodded. He pulled out his phone, made a call in rapid Korean, then another, and another. Within 10 minutes, he'd made at least 15 calls, each one brief, each one clearly mobilizing resources. When he finished, he looked at his assembled team. Chairman Kang wants war. Let's give him war. Hana, release the audit of his government contracts. Every piece of corruption we found, every bribe, every violation, send it to every news outlet simultaneously. Make it impossible to ignore. That's going to implicate a lot of powerful people, Hana warned. Good. Let them all scramble. The more chaos, the harder it is for them to coordinate against us. He turned to one of the men Tina didn't know. Jae-sung, you've been tracking Chairman Kang's offshore accounts. Freeze them, all of them. I don't care what it costs or who you have to pay. Make his money inaccessible. Sir, that's going to require some very illegal... I don't care, legal didn't work. He wants to play dirty, we play dirtier. Just make sure it can't be traced back to us definitively. Person by person, Ji-hoon gave orders, each one more aggressive than the last, each one designed to hit Chairman Kang from a different angle. Financial pressure, legal exposure, social embarrassment, business isolation. It was brutal. It was comprehensive. It was the kind of coordinated assault that only someone with Ji-hoon's resources and connections could pull off. When the room cleared, leaving just Tina and Ji-hoon, she asked quietly, "Will this work?" "It has to, because I'm out of subtle options." He looked at her, and she saw the weight of what he'd just set in motion. "I just declared war on one of Seoul's most powerful families, used methods that will make a lot of people uncomfortable. Crossed lines. I've been careful not to cross for years. There will be consequences, but you'll be safe. That's what matters." Ji-hoon, I never wanted you to. I know, but I wanted to. For you. For me. For every person Chairman Kang has crushed over the years who didn't have someone willing to fight back. He smiled tiredly. Besides, I've been too comfortable for too long. Playing both sides, legitimate businessman with underground connections. Maybe it's time to commit. Pick a side. Use this power I've built for something that actually matters. They heard vehicles approaching, multiple engines, official sounding, immigration enforcement, probably, coming with their warrant. "Stay here," Ji-hoon said. "Let me handle this." He walked out to meet them, Tina watching from the window. She saw 3 official cars, men in uniform stepping out, presenting papers. Saw Ji-hoon's calm response, his gestures toward the house, the way he positioned himself between the officials and the door. Then she saw him make a phone call, saw the lead official's phone ring, saw the man's expression change as he answered, talked, then hung up looking pale. The officials conferred among themselves. Then incredibly, they got back in their cars and left. Ji-hoon came back inside, his expression neutral, but his eyes burning with quiet triumph. They've been recalled. Apparently, their warrant had procedural issues. It'll take days to get a new one properly issued. Days we'll use to dismantle Chairman Kang's entire case. "What did you do?" "Called the Minister of Justice, who owes me several very significant favors. I've never called them in before. I did today," explained the situation, provided evidence of Chairman Kang's fabricated charges, made it very clear that this was a personal priority for me. He shrugged. "Turns out, the minister values my friendship more than Chairman Kang's. Money. Who knew? It should have felt like victory." Instead, Tina just felt exhausted. When does this end? The fighting, the escalation, the constant crisis. Soon. Chairman Kang is about to have much bigger problems than you. By noon, the audit of his corruption will be in every newsroom in Seoul. By evening, he'll be too busy trying to save himself to worry about revenge. And by tomorrow, he'll realize that coming after you was the worst business decision of his life. He was right. By 10 a.m., the first news outlet started reporting on the massive corruption scandal involving Kang Industries and multiple government officials. By noon, it was the top story in Korea. By evening, prosecutors were announcing investigations. And by the next morning, Chairman Kang was dealing with a full-scale crisis that made Tina's situation look trivial by comparison. The immigration complaints against her quietly disappeared. The fabricated evidence was revealed as fabricated. And Chairman Kang, facing possible criminal charges and the collapse of his business empire, had no time or resources left to wage war on a waitress who dared to speak truth. It was over. Not the aftermath, not the healing, not the complicated questions about what came next, but the immediate danger, the threat of deportation and destruction, that was done. Tina stayed at Ji-hoon's compound for 3 more days while the crisis settled. They spent evenings talking, learning each other beyond the trauma and drama that had thrown them together. He told her about his father's death, about inheriting an organization he never wanted, about trying to build something better from violent foundations. She told him about her father's illness, about the impossible choices poverty forces, about dreams deferred and the quiet grief of paths not taken. They didn't kiss, didn't rush into anything physical. The connection between them was too important, too complicated, to risk cheapening with premature intimacy. Instead, they built something slower: trust, understanding, the foundation of something that might eventually become love. On the 4th day, Hana came with news. Chairman Kang has been arrested. Multiple charges of bribery, fraud, corruption. His lawyers are trying to negotiate, but the evidence is overwhelming. He's done. And Damien? Tina asked. Still in rehab, he released a statement distancing himself from his father's actions, pledging to cooperate fully with investigations. Apparently, he's been in therapy working through his family history. His counselors think he might actually have a chance at real change. Tina thought about the drunk man who'd torn her dress, wondered if people could really transform, or if damage ran too deep, hoped, for his sake more than hers, that change was possible. "What about me?" she asked. "Can I go home? Back to the apartment? Back to work? Back to my life?" Ji-hoon spoke carefully. "You can do whatever you want. The threats are over. The legal issues resolved. You're completely free." The way he said it, the careful neutrality, Tina understood what he wasn't saying. He wanted her to stay, not just at the compound, but in his life. But he wouldn't ask, wouldn't use the power imbalance or the recent crisis to pressure her into anything. "I should go back to the apartment," she said. "Dalise and Yuki are probably worried, and I need to process everything that's happened. Need some space to think clearly." She saw the flash of disappointment in his eyes before he masked it. "Of course, I'll have Mrs. Cho drive you whenever you're ready." Ji-hoon, she took his hand the first time she'd initiated physical contact. "This isn't me running away. This is me needing to figure out who I am when I'm not in survival mode, when my life isn't actively falling apart. I need to know if what I feel for you is real, or just trauma, and gratitude, and the intensity of crisis. You deserve to know that too." He squeezed her hand gently. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here, working, building, trying to become someone worthy of you if you decide I am." "You already are," she said softly. "That's not the question. The question is whether I'm ready for this. For you. For everything being with you would mean." She left that afternoon, the city looking different as they drove back. Brighter somehow. More possible. She'd faced down one of Seoul's most powerful men and survived. More than survived. She'd won. The apartment welcomed her home like an old friend. Dalise and Yuki had kept it clean, had groceries waiting, had missed her desperately. They spent the evening catching up, talking about everything that had happened, making plans for a future that finally felt possible. Tina returned to work at the gallery the following Monday. The protesters were gone. The media had moved on to other stories. Life was settling into something approaching normal. Sujin greeted her warmly. "Welcome back. We missed you. Ji-hoon's been like a caged tiger without you here to manage him." "I don't manage him." "You do. You just don't realize it yet." Sujin smiled knowingly. "He's different around you. Softer, more human. It's good for him." The days fell into a rhythm. Work at the gallery, evenings with Dalise and Yuki, phone calls with her mother whose treatment was going better than expected, thanks to the money Tina could now consistently send. Simple things, normal things, precious, because for so long, Normal had been impossible. Ji-hoon gave her space like he'd promised. They texted occasionally, saw each other at gallery events, maintained professional boundaries even as the tension between them built with every carefully neutral conversation. 3 weeks after leaving his compound, Tina was reviewing submissions when Park Mi-sun's assistant called. Ms. Park would like you to attend a gala this weekend. Black tie, +1 invited if you have someone you'd like to bring. Tina knew exactly who she wanted to bring. Knew it was time to stop hiding from what she felt. Knew that some things were worth the risk. She called Ji-hoon. "Would you like to go to a gala with me Saturday night?" Tina asked, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it through the phone. There was a pause, then Ji-hoon's voice, warm with something that sounded like hope. "As your +1? As whatever you want to be." "I want to be yours," he said simply, "in whatever capacity you'll have me." Saturday evening, Tina stood in front of her mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was midnight blue, elegant and expensive, a gift from Park Mi-sun's assistant, with a note that read, "Every warrior deserves armor that makes her feel invincible." Her hair was styled, her makeup subtle but striking. The phoenix pendant rested against her collarbone, catching the light. Dalise and Yuki circled her like proud mothers, making final adjustments. "You look like royalty," Yuki said. "I look terrified." "That too," Dalise agreed. "But the good kind of terrified, the kind that means something important is about to happen." The doorbell rang. Ji-hoon had insisted on picking her up himself. No driver, no formality, just him. Tina opened the door and forgot how to breathe. He wore a tuxedo like he was born to it, perfectly tailored, devastatingly handsome. But it was his expression when he saw her that made her knees weak. Wonder, reverence, like she was something precious he was afraid to touch. "You're beautiful," he said quietly. "You're not so bad yourself." They rode to the gala in comfortable silence, his hand finding hers in the car's darkness, fingers intertwining like they'd been doing it for years, instead of for the first time. The event was at one of Seoul's most prestigious hotels, a fundraiser for immigrant worker advocacy organizations. Park Mi-sun had transformed Tina's story into action, mobilizing Seoul's elite to actually create change instead of just talking about it. When they arrived, cameras flashed, not the aggressive paparazzi from before, but society photographers documenting the event. Tina and Ji-hoon walking in together would be in tomorrow's papers. Everyone would know. Everyone would talk. "Are you sure about this?" Tina asked as they approached the entrance. "Being seen with me publicly, at an event like this, it's making a statement." "Good. Let them talk. I'm done hiding what matters to me." He squeezed her hand. "But only if you're sure. I won't push you into anything you're not ready for." Tina looked at him, this complicated man who'd risked everything to protect her, who'd declared war on one of Korea's most powerful families because someone had hurt her, who'd given her space when she asked and shown up when she called. "I'm sure," she said. They walked in together. The ballroom was magnificent. Seoul's wealthy and influential gathered in their finest. Tina recognized faces from television, from business magazines, from the gallery's client list. These were the people who shaped Korea's future, for better or worse. Park Mi-sun greeted them warmly, embracing Tina like an old friend. "You came. I'm so glad. There are people here who want to meet you, who've been moved by your story." She glanced at Ji-hoon with approval. "And I see you brought proper support. Good. You'll need it for what I'm about to ask you to do." "What's that?" "Speak. Tell your story to this room full of people who have the power and resources to actually change things. Will you?" Tina's first instinct was to refuse. Public speaking in front of Seoul's elite about the worst moments of her life? It was terrifying. But then she thought about all the women like her, working in the shadows, too afraid to speak up because they had no protection, no resources, no voice. She thought about how silence had protected Chairman Kang for decades, how speaking up had finally brought him down. I'll do it. An hour into the event, Park Mi-sun took the stage and introduced Tina. The room went quiet as she walked up. Ji-hoon's encouraging smile the last thing she saw before facing the crowd. 3 months ago, Tina began, her voice steadier than she expected. I was a waitress serving champagne to people who didn't see me as fully human. I was one bad day away from deportation, one missed paycheck from homelessness. I was invisible, disposable, until one night when I became very visible in the worst possible way. She told her story. Not the sanitized version, the real one. The fear, the humiliation, the desperate choice between pride and survival. But also the aftermath, the people who'd helped her, the systems that had protected her once she had access to them. The difference between having power and having someone powerful on your side. I'm one of the lucky ones, she said. I survived because I had help, because someone believed I mattered. But there are thousands of women like me in the city who don't have that protection. Who suffer abuse silently because speaking up means losing everything. Who are told their dignity is less important than their employer's convenience. That needs to change. She looked at Ji-hoon, drew strength from his presence. Real change doesn't come from one person's story. It comes from people with power choosing to use it for something beyond their own benefit. It comes from business leaders prioritizing worker protection over profit margins. It comes from wealthy donors funding advocacy organizations. It comes from people in this room deciding that the status quo is unacceptable. Her voice rose, confident now, passionate. I can tell my story, but you can change the systems that make stories like mine possible. You can demand accountability. You can create protection. You can choose, right now, to be part of the solution instead of benefiting from the problem. The question is, will you? The silence after she finished was absolute. Then Park Mi-sun started clapping, and the room erupted into applause. People stood. Tina saw tears on faces, saw nodding heads, saw something shift in the room's energy. She'd done it. Changed hearts, maybe. Changed minds, hopefully. Changed the conversation, definitely. Ji-hoon met her as she came off stage, his eyes bright with pride. You were magnificent. I was terrified. Terror and magnificence aren't mutually exclusive. He hesitated, then continued quietly. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you before, but the timing never felt right. What is it? Not here. Later, when we're alone. But Tina, whatever happens tonight, whatever you decide about us, I need you to know the complete truth about who I am, about what I've done. You deserve that before you make any choices about your future. The seriousness in his voice made her nervous, but she nodded. Okay, after the gala, we'll talk. The rest of the evening was a blur of introductions, conversations with people who wanted to help, business cards pressed into her hand, invitations to speak at other events. Park Mi-sun introduced her to board members of major corporations, advocacy organization leaders, even a member of the National Assembly who promised to look into immigration reform. By the time they left, Tina's feet hurt and her face ached from smiling, but she felt lighter than she had in months, like she'd taken pain and transformed it into purpose. Like maybe her suffering hadn't been meaningless after all. Ji-hoon drove them to the Han River, to a quiet overlook where the city lights reflected on dark water. They sat on a bench, the night cool, but not uncomfortable. Seoul's hum a distant soundtrack. What did you want to tell me? Tina asked. Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment, gathering words. When I told you about my world, about the gray areas I operate in, I made it sound cleaner than it is. The truth is messier, darker. I've hurt people, Tina. Not recently, not since I started trying to build something legitimate. But in my 20s, when I was establishing control, consolidating power after my father died, I did things I'm not proud of. Violent things. Things that keep me awake at night. He stared at the river, unable to meet her eyes. I've never killed anyone directly. That line I haven't crossed. But I've ordered things. enabled things, looked away from things that resulted in people being hurt, severely hurt, and for a long time I justified it as necessary, as the cost of survival in my world. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know what you're getting into if you choose to be with me. I'm not some reformed criminal playing at legitimate business. I'm someone actively trying to become better while still carrying the weight of what I was. The organizations I've built, the legitimate businesses, they're real. But they're funded by money that came from dark places, built on foundations of violence and fear. He finally looked at her, his expression raw with vulnerability. I don't want you to choose me because you're grateful, or because I protected you, or because the timing feels right. I want you to choose me knowing exactly who I am. All of it. The good and the terrible. And if you can't, if this is too much, I'll understand. I'll still protect you, still care about you, still want the best for you. But I won't ask you to accept something you can't live with. Tina sat with his words, with the honesty that must have cost him to speak. She thought about the man who'd bled in an alley, who'd been vulnerable, and young, and scared. Thought about the man who'd declared war on Chairman Kang to protect her. Thought about the careful distance he'd maintained, the choices he'd made to give her power in their dynamic. I'm not naive, she said finally. I knew your world was darker than you initially described. I saw it in how people reacted to your name, in the resources you could mobilize, in the way problems disappeared when you made phone calls. I chose not to ask too many questions, because I needed the protection. But I knew. And now, knowing the specifics, Tina turned to face him fully. Now I know you're someone trying to be better than your past. Someone who's used power for protection instead of destruction, at least with me. Someone who's been more honest about his darkness than most people are about their light. That matters. But is it enough? Can you be with someone who carries this kind of weight? I don't know yet, she said honestly. I need time to process it, to understand what it means for my life, my future. But Ji-hoon, I know this. I care about you. Not who you were, not who you're trying to become, but who you are right now, in this moment, complicated and flawed and trying. That's real. That's worth exploring. She took his hand, laced their fingers together. I'm not promising forever. I'm not even promising next month. But I'm promising that I want to try. Want to see what this is, what it could become, with honesty between us. Can that be enough for now? Ji-hoon's smile was small but genuine, relief and hope mixed together. That's more than enough. That's everything. They sat in silence for a while, watching the river flow, the city breathe, time passing in the quiet way it does when you're with someone who matters. There's something else, Tina said eventually. Something I've been thinking about. The gallery job, it's wonderful, but it's not what I meant to do long term. I was studying journalism for a reason. I like telling stories, uncovering truth, giving voice to people who don't have platforms. These past few months going through all of this, it reminded me of that passion. You want to go back to school, finish your degree. Eventually, yes, but more immediately, I want to write, really write, about immigrant experiences in Korea, about power imbalances, about the systems that protect some people and destroy others. I want to use what happened to me as a starting point for larger conversations. Park Mi-sun mentioned funding for advocacy journalism. I think I want to pursue that. What can I do to help? Don't take this the wrong way, but nothing. This needs to be mine. My work, my credibility, my voice. I can't have it connected to you financially, or people will always question my motives. I need to build this separately. Instead of being offended, Ji-hoon looked proud. Good. That's exactly right. Build something that's yours. I'll support you in every other way, but you're right that the work needs to stand on its own. He paused. Does this mean you're leaving the gallery? Not immediately. I need the income, the visa stability. But eventually, yes. Sujin's wonderful, and I've learned so much, but my heart isn't in art curation. My heart is in stories, in truth-telling, in making people uncomfortable enough to create change. You're going to be extraordinary at it, Ji-hoon said with quiet certainty. You already are. They stayed at the river until past midnight, talking about dreams and fears and the complicated future they were building together. When Ji-hoon finally drove her home, he walked her to her door but didn't ask to come in, didn't push for more than she was ready to give. He just kissed her forehead gently, a promise of patience, and said, "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." Tina watched him leave, then went inside to find Dalisai and Yuki waiting up, demanding every detail. She told them about the gala, the speech, the conversation with Ji-hoon, the decision to pursue journalism, all of it. "You're going to change the world," Yuki said with absolute conviction. "I'm going to try," Tina corrected. "That's all any of us can do. Try and hope it's enough." The weeks that followed were full of small transformations. Tina started writing, pitching stories to outlets, building a portfolio. Some were rejected, some were accepted. She wrote about her experience, yes, but also about other immigrant workers, about systemic issues, about the changing face of Korean society. Her byline started appearing in respected publications. People recognized her name for her writing now, not just for being a victim. It felt like reclaiming narrative, like taking power back. She saw Ji-hoon regularly, dinners, gallery events, quiet evenings at his compound. They were building something slow and strong, learning each other without the pressure of crisis, forcing artificial intimacy. There were moments of tension, of attraction, of wanting more, but they were both patient, both committed to getting this right. Damien Kang completed his rehabilitation program and emerged with a statement acknowledging his failures and committing to make amends through action rather than words. He established a foundation focused on alcoholism treatment and worker advocacy, funded entirely by his personal wealth. Tina didn't know if his transformation was genuine, but she appreciated the effort. Chairman Kang went to prison. The corruption charges stuck, his empire crumbled, and Seoul's old guard learned that even they had limits. It didn't fix everything, didn't dismantle systems of privilege overnight, but it was a crack in the foundation. And cracks, given time and pressure, can bring down entire structures. 3 months after the gala, Tina's mother's cancer went into remission. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, talking about years instead of months. Tina cried on the phone with her, tears of relief and gratitude, and the strange guilt of good fortune. "Come visit," her mother said. "Bring that young man you keep mentioning but won't call your boyfriend. Let me see this life you've built." Tina invited Ji-hoon to Atlanta, and he accepted immediately. They spent a week there, Ji-hoon charming her mother, seeing where Tina came from, understanding the roots that shaped her. He saw the alley where she'd saved him, and they stood there together, full circle from where their story began. "Do you ever regret it?" Tina asked. "Helping me, everything that came after, the war with Chairman Kang, the complications, all of it." Ji-hoon looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "Regret protecting you? Regret choosing to fight for something that matters? Never, not for a second. Whatever complications came, whatever I had to sacrifice, it was worth it. You're worth it. Even if this us doesn't work out the way we hope. Even then, because knowing you, caring about you, it made me better, made me want to be better. That has value regardless of romantic outcomes. You gave me hope, Tina. 7 years ago, and again now. That's a gift I can never repay." On their last night in Atlanta, sitting on her mother's porch watching fireflies, Tina finally said the words she'd been holding back. "I love you." Ji-hoon went still. "Are you sure? Because Tina, once you say it, once we cross that line, everything changes. I need you to be absolutely certain." "I'm certain. I love you." Not perfectly, not without fear, not without questions about what the future holds. But I love you, the man you were, the man you are, the man you're trying to become. All of it. I love you. He kissed her then, finally, after months of patience and restraint. It was gentle and fierce at once, a promise and a beginning. Everything they'd been building toward crystallizing in that moment. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Ji-hoon rested his forehead against hers. I love you too. Have loved you since I woke up in that clinic 7 years ago and saw someone who'd chosen kindness when cruelty would have been easier. I love you, Tina Johnson. I love you completely. They returned to Seoul as something new, not hiding anymore, not uncertain. Together, openly, choosing each other despite the complications. 6 months later, Tina's first major investigative piece was published in an international magazine. It exposed labor trafficking networks operating in Seoul's restaurant industry, leading to arrests and policy changes. Her byline was gaining recognition, her voice becoming one that people listened to. A year after the Diamond Sky incident, she gave a TED Talk about power, privilege, and the choice to fight back. It went viral, was translated into dozens of languages, became required viewing in some university courses. Dalisay got her nursing credentials recognized and started working at a prestigious hospital. Yuki landed a leading role in a musical. The apartment in Hanam-dong became a home, filled with laughter and friendship and dreams realized. And through it all, Ji-hoon was there. Not controlling, not possessive, but present. Supporting her work, celebrating her victories, holding her through the inevitable setbacks. He continued transforming his business empire, divesting from questionable operations, building legitimate enterprises that employed hundreds of people fairly. They were both works in progress, both learning to be better than their circumstances tried to make them. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments about the pace of change in Ji-hoon's organizations, about boundaries between Tina's journalism and his business interests, about the complexities of building a life together when both came from such different worlds. But they worked through it, together, with honesty and patience, and the understanding that love isn't about perfection, it's about choosing each other, flaws and all, and committing to grow together. 2 years after a drunk billionaire tore her dress in a moment of rage, Tina stood at a podium accepting an award for investigative journalism. In her speech, she talked about the strange path that led her there, about how the worst moment of her life became the catalyst for everything that came after. I don't recommend getting your dress torn in front of hundreds of people as a career strategy, she said, and the audience laughed. But I do recommend this. When the world tries to make you small, when powerful people try to silence you, when systems are designed to crush you, fight back. Tell your truth. Find your people. Build something from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. She looked at Ji-hoon in the audience, at Dalisay and Yuki beside him, at Park Mi-sun and Sun-mi, and all the people who'd helped her transform trauma into purpose. We don't survive alone. We don't fight alone. We don't build better futures alone. We do it together, with courage and community, and the belief that we deserve better than what the broken systems offer us. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we find love in the midst of the fight. Love that makes us stronger. Love that makes us braver. Love that reminds us why it's worth fighting in the first place. The applause was thunderous, but all Tina heard was Ji-hoon's voice later that night, when they were alone, when he pulled her close and whispered against her hair. Thank you for saving me. Then, and now. Always. Thank you for saving me right back, she whispered in return. They'd both been drowning in different ways, and somehow, impossibly, they'd pulled each other to shore, built something beautiful from broken pieces, found home in each other when home seemed impossible. It wasn't the ending Tina had expected when she came to Korea 3 years ago, desperate and alone. It was better, messier, and more complicated and more real than any fairy tale. It was theirs. And that, Tina thought as she fell asleep in Ji-hoon's arms, was worth every painful step it took to get there. The dress that was torn became a symbol, not of victimhood, but of transformation, not of helplessness, but of the moment someone decided to fight back. And in Seoul, in the shadows and the light, two people who'd saved each other built a future together. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one love at a time.